Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another 3-Minute Thoughts. My name is Derek, and for the past several weeks, we've been walking through the story of the early church in the book of Acts. Now, this morning, we're going to turn a corner and step into one of the most influential letters ever written. Today, we're going to be in the book of Romans, starting with chapter 1. Now, Paul opens this letter with a statement that almost sounds like a dare. In verse 16, he says, "For I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes." Think about who's writing that. Paul is writing to believers in Rome. That's the capital of the empire, the center of political power, the center of military power, and the center of cultural power. And Paul is preparing to bring them a message about a crucified Jewish carpenter who rose from the dead and is Lord of all creation. By Roman standards, that message should have sounded, well, ridiculous. But Paul isn't embarrassed by it. He's not apologizing for it. He's not trying to make it more respectable or even more believable, because he believes something deeper. The gospel isn't merely good advice. It's not a self-help strategy, nor is it one of those philosophies that are a plethora among many. It is the power of God, the very thing capable of changing lives. And it becomes the heartbeat of the entire letter. But then Romans 1 takes a little bit of a turn. Paul begins describing what happens when people exchange the Creator for created things, when we worship what God made instead of the God who made it. And if we're honest, that's not just an ancient problem, it's a human problem. Throughout Scripture, we see it happen again and again. Israel builds a golden calf. Jonah values his comfort more than God's mission. The crowds want miracles more than they want Jesus. And today, we may not bow down before carved statues, but we're still tempted to build our lives around things that can't save us. Success, approval, money, politics, comfort, achievement, relationships. Good things that become ultimate things are actually bad things. And when that happens, we slowly drift away from the life we were created for. That's why Romans 1 matters so much, because before Paul talks about grace, he wants us to understand why we need it. Before he talks about salvation, he wants us to see the depth of our need. And before he talks about righteousness, he wants us to recognize our tendency to look elsewhere for it. So what does Romans 1 actually ask us? It asks, where in your life are you quietly embarrassed by the gospel? Not necessarily rejecting it, but keeping it at arm's length because you're worried about how others might respond. Or maybe it asks, what would it look like to be genuinely unashamed? Not loud, argumentative, or trying to win every debate, just confidently quiet enough to trust that the gospel is true. And finally, has the gospel become more familiar background noise to you, or is it actually the power of God for salvation? Hey friends, thanks for taking time with me this morning, and we hope that you are unashamed of the gospel too. Be well.